Toby's Room by Pat Barker. Narrated by Nicola Barber. Part 1, 1912. Chapter 1. Elinor arrived home at 4 o'clock on Friday and went straight to her room. She hung the red dress on the wardrobe door, glancing at it from time to time as she brushed her hair. That neckline seemed to be getting lower by the minute. In the end, her nerve failed her. She hunted out her pink dress, the one she used to wear for dancing classes at school, put it on, and stood in front of the cheval mirror. She turned her head from side to side, her hands smoothing down the creases that had gathered round the waist. Oh dear. No, she couldn't do it. Not this time. Not ever again. She wriggled out of it and threw it to the back of the wardrobe. Out of the window would have been more satisfying, but her father and brother-in-law were sitting on the terrace. She pulled the red dress over her head, tugged the neckline up as far as it would go, and went reluctantly downstairs. Father met her in the hall and hugged her as if he hadn't seen her for a year. Outside the living room, she hesitated, but there was no point wearing a red dress and then creeping along the skirting boards like a mouse, so she flung the door open and swept in. She kissed Rachel, waved at Rachel's husband, Tim, who was at the far side of the room talking to her mother, and then looked around for Toby. But he wasn't there. Perhaps he wasn't coming after all, though he'd said he would. The prospect of his absence darkened the whole evening. She wasn't sure she could face it on her own. But then, a few minutes later, he came in, apologizing profusely, damp hair sticking to his forehead. He must have been for a swim. She wished she'd known. She'd have gone with him. Not much hope of talking to him now. Mother had already beckoned him to her side. Rachel was asking Elinor question after question about her life in London. Who she met, who she went out with, did she have any particular friends? Elinor said as little as possible, looking for an excuse to get away. It was supplied by her mother, who appeared at her side and hissed, "Elinor, go upstairs at once and take that ridiculous dress off." At that moment the gong sounded. Elinor spread her hands, all injured innocence, though underneath she felt hurt and humiliated. Yet again she was being treated like a child. Father came in at the last minute, just as they were sitting down. She wondered at the curious mixture of poking and prying and secrecy that ruled their lives. Mother and father saw very little of each other. She needed country air for the sake of her health. He lived at his club because it was such a convenient walking distance from the hospital.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?